If you've ever made a purchase and later wondered, what was I thinking? Now you can find out. Adam Craig, an assistant professor of marketing at the University of South Florida, is working with a group of researchers in the neuroscience field, analyzing the financial decisions that people make and the way that we respond to advertising.
People really aren't good about telling you what's going on in their minds. So that was the first challenge that we had. How do we figure out what's going on in people's heads without actually asking them?
It's now possible to see with a functional magnetic resonance imaging scanner. The fMRI scans allow Craig and researchers to track the blood flow to specific parts of the brain during the decision-making process.
With this study, we were interested in how do people sort through advertisements that are deceptive or not? How do we figure out, okay, this advertisement's trying to, lie to me and trying to get me to buy something that's not really going to work. It doesn't do what it says it's going to do.
A series of ads ranging from highly believable to highly deceptive were displayed inside the fMRI, and the cognitive process during the evaluation of the ads was tracked and later analyzed.
We saw that there were really two stages of processing involved when people are seeing these potentially deceptive ads. In the first stage, your brain, specifically an area called the precuneus, is allocating attention to advertisements or to claims in advertisements that are really extreme.
This stage easily rules out the highly deceptive ads.
The second stage of processing then is one where we actually think more about, okay, what is the intent of the ad? Do the claims, do they seem like they could potentially be true? What we saw is greater activation in an area called the superior temporal sulcus and temporal parietal junction.
It's during this multi-stage process that our belief reasoning is engaged and we decide whether or not to believe the ad. The chance of this process not working properly is increased if we are not able to focus completely.
So that's where the danger for consumers really comes in, is when you don't have the mental resources available, when you're tired, when you're fatigued, when you've been shopping all day, when you're in that kind of fatigued mental state, that's when you're not going to be able to catch those potentially deceptive advertisements.
Another fMRI research study Craig is working on is how people evaluate luxury brands compared to more practical brands, depending on their personal financial goals.
We were measuring how the brain responded when they saw a brand like Burberry and they had a goal or wanting to be indulgent or have high status, as opposed to how would you respond to this brand if you were wanting to be frugal.
The study compared a range of luxury and practical brands.
What we saw is that an area of the brain called the orbitofrontal cortex essentially does a computation or a calculation for how much you want this brand depending on what goal that you have.
Craig says environmental factors and subtle cues can influence and change our financial goals without our awareness.
A lot of what we're seeing with the neuroscience and neuroeconomic research is that most of the decisions that we make are actually automatic. Most of the processes involved in the brain are automatic and are done without us actually being aware of it.
He says we all have a little bit of intuition about how advertisers are trying to influence us. By combining that with knowledge of how we make decisions, consumers can make more informed choices about their spending. For USF News, I'm Katie Hennig.